Hey everyone, Pascal calling you again from Paris. We're entering our third week of confinement. Paris is a little bit more livable than it was. For the most part, over the past couple of days, we've had the windows open and we've just heard kids playing down in the courtyard. We've heard all these birds come back and it's actually been something that's really nice. Since I haven't been able to work for the past 3 weeks, I'm actually really lucky to say that the government stepped in and is helping out small businesses make sure that people still get their salaries. And I'm one of the lucky recipients of that. The French government is even going so far too to help out people that are freelancing or maybe struggling just to make it by, which is actually, something that's pretty generous considering everything that's going on and the needs of people. It's been the case now for 3 weeks since the start of the confinement, but all unessential businesses are shut down. And so that means the only place that is still open are bakeries, all food stores, and surprisingly we have more than what we typically have. Probably because a lot of people left Paris to go back to maybe smaller villages they might come from and everything like that. Since the beginning of the confinement, whenever we leave the house, we have to have with us a piece of documentation as well as a document explaining why we are out at that time. If not, we'll face a fine, but that's not really too bad. It's just to discourage people from being outside. Okay, so this is something I was actually really excited for and why I waited until this moment to film. One thing that they've been doing since day one of the confinement is all across France, they're doing exactly what you hear now. And that's people clapping, banging pots and pans together, all trying to say thank you to the people that are working to make sure that they can come up with a cure or taking care of the people that are already sick. It's something that I think is really sweet. I've heard some accounts or some people trying to do it in the States, but since day one, it has been like that here all across the country. One thing about living in a city that's as old as Paris, this was here before the Romans, is kind of thinking about its place in history. Before I moved to Europe, it was always something I thought about, people thought about, of how old Europe is in comparison to the United States. And that's kind of something to think about. I mean, the building that we live in was built in 1900, which isn't that old, but the Notre Dame or maybe other places around here, they've seen so much. Like when this was built in 1900, it would go on to see 2 world wars, a couple recessions, Spanish flu, whatever other kind of influenzas that happened to go by at that time. And it's all come to pass eventually. And the first step that you walk in when you walk into the building is made of stone. And what I love and what I noticed when I first moved here was that it's actually grooved a little bit just from the 120 years of people passing over it. And I love to think about that because, you have the events that make life that maybe aren't, written about in history books happen here. You have people falling in love, you have people laughing, drinking, having families, what have you, and yet that's all happened here, and whatever hardships that were in their lifetime passed eventually. And so, obviously I don't know what's going on, I don't think a lot of people do, but I always take a little bit of comfort in that. And knowing that, for those people, that too shall pass. And the least that I can do, the least I can say is that I'm happy to have the windows open, I'm happy to eat well, I'm happy to have the time to read, to call the people I love, to talk with them. And there's just a lot that I actually feel really happy for, and I hope that you can say the same thing. I'm fortunate enough to say that I'm doing okay, that everyone I love is doing all right. I hope that you're able to say the same thing for everyone working, whether hospital, whether keeping the lights on, whether making sure the grocery stores are still serving and making sure people can get by okay. Just want to say thank you, and I hope in a couple months that you're able to actually come out to here in Paris since the weather has turned nice and maybe enjoy a little bit yourself. This is Pascal signing off.